The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's file for your website. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing to maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right. This is Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? Boy, oh boy, what a day it has been. I have been all over the place. I can't even tell you guys a third of the places I've been because I can't remember half of them. So we're just going to go, woo, and just say, Jess has had one of those days, so I haven't decided if I'm doing my full show, cutting my show short, but I promised you guys some very special audio clips tonight, and I got to bring them to you. Oh yeah, I've got some really awesome Pearl Harbor clips, along with one that just peeves me off. Now, in honor of this being Pearl Harbor, we are going to kick everything off with Ash Carter's message about Pearl Harbor. All right? I know I've warned you it's going to be a little long, but I need you to bear with and just take it as it comes because it's only a minute 45. Come on, you're telling me you can't deal with a minute 45? I don't believe you. So, you can handle it. I have faith in my listeners. So we are going to get that audio clip playing for you. Meanwhile, I am so behind on my host duties. It's not even funny tonight. I am a cat on a hot tin roof, and I think host Kitty would actually agree with me. Because boy, oh boy, am I bouncing. You can't see my screen tonight, but I can't even count the tabs I've got open, not to mention the other apps and everything else I'm chasing down. Now, I'll let you in on a secret. Some of it's actually not for me. There's a new show in the works here on KLRN Radio, and it is Constitution and Culture, and it will be on immediately after me for its debut show tonight. Yes, the debut show of Constitution and Culture is going to be on tonight, right after me. So don't go anywhere. There's no reason. You start off with a grouch and you end up with America off the rails. Come on. What better thing to do? All right. We are going to listen to the words of Secretary of Defense Ash Carter give his statement about Pearl Harbor, which I will say, if any of you keep up with the news, like I do, you know it was pre-recorded. Do these things ages in advance because Ash Carter is actually in Japan on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day. Oh yeah. So let's take a listen to Secretary of Defense Ash Carter.
75 years ago today, on a peaceful Sunday morning in Pearl Harbor, our nation sustained the unthinkable, a surprise attack, the most devastating we'd ever known. Today, we honor the men and women who gave their lives in service to our nation, and the survivors who demonstrated incredible resilience and bravery under extraordinary circumstances. We will never forget their courage, nor the dedication with which they fought to protect our freedoms and defend democracy in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor. On this 75th anniversary, we recognize their struggles and triumphs as we celebrate the stability and prosperity that we've enjoyed in the decades since that harrowing time. We recognize that the greatest generation of World War II helped lead our great nation, along with many others, on a path towards progress and security. Today, we also note how far we've come in our relationship with Japan. Formerly adversaries, our nations are not just allies, but friends and global partners. Through our alliance, the United States and Japan are working together for peace and prosperity in the Asia-Pacific region in our time and for decades to come. Much has changed since that fateful day in 1941. Out of the ashes of destruction, we emerged a stronger nation, ready to defend our homeland against any adversary or threat. Today, our servicemen and women take up the legacy of those we lost at Pearl Harbor with their unwavering commitment to duty and tireless service around the globe. 75 years later, December 7th remains a day that will live in infamy. But let's also celebrate the progress we've made since then and the even brighter future that still lies ahead for the United States. Thank you.
All right, those are the words of Secretary of Defense Ash Carter. And if you listen to my show regularly, you heard a cute little piece I found about Ash Carter being an academic. Yes, I'm going to replay that clip just to remind everybody of where Ash Carter came from. It's 30 seconds. Bear with.
We were lucky to have in the Senate then two very brilliant and foresighted senators, Senator Nunn and Senator Lugar. And we also had a young academic at Harvard called Ashton Carter.
Yes, he was an academic at Harvard at one point who found himself thrust into the Department of Defense. All right, folks. I am a cat on a hot tin roof. I'm going to admit that tonight. You're just going to have to roll with me. I do have my show prep. Now, let's see. I've got a couple more audio clips I want to get to. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Secretary of Defense Ash Carter is in Japan today, which I think is absolutely astonishing. Plus, if you recall yesterday, see if I can find it. Prime Minister Abe is going to visit Pearl Harbor. I'm going to play you his words. Even if you heard them yesterday, it's 27 seconds. Bear with.
At the end of this month, I will visit Hawaii, and during my visit, I will have a bilateral meeting with President Obama, and we together visit the Pearl Harbor as well as USS Arizona Memorial, where we will pray for the souls of the war dead. And on that occasion, I would like to demonstrate my determination for the future that we must never again repeat the devastation of war.
All right. I also want to tell you, he won't be the first Japanese to visit Pearl Harbor. There is an annual ceremony called the Blackened Canteen Ceremony. And I'd never heard of it before I was doing some research on Pearl Harbor. I'm going to read you a little bit about this. On a warm June evening in 1945, the skies over Shikuzo, Japan, two U.S. Army Air Force B-29s from 314th Bomb Wing collided during a planned bombing raid, killing all 23 American on board. Down below, more than 2,000 Shizuoka citizens also perished in the raid. The horror of war had reared its head once again. I need to untie my tongue. According to historical accounts, the flames of the wreckage served to illuminate this blackest of night. From this tragedy emerged the tradition of the Blackened Canteen, an artifact recovered from the site the next morning by Fukushima Ito. Ito is a Shizuoka citizen who survived the raid. Dr. Hiro Sugano, a child at the time of the raid, was also out that day observing the wreckage site with his family. The sense of grief was practically tangible, Sugano recalled. The canteen, scarred and bruised, though still intact, bore the handprint of what Ito imagined was the canteen's owner. As per his devotion to Buddhism, Ito coordinated a proper burial for the American crewmen alongside Shizuoka residents who also lost their lives that day. This began a tradition of honor that echoes to this day via the annual Blackened Canteen ceremony, held around the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attacks. Initially, every year, Ito would visit the B-29 crash site to honor both the American crewmen and the citizens of Shizuoka with the pouring of bourbon whiskey from the canteen on the ground. According to Ito, this honored the spirits of the fallen. Over time, his weathered criticism and outright scorn for his actions from his countrymen. But Ito would not be deterred from his yearly homage to the fallen. Ito was part of the forgiveness and healing process. In time, Sugano would take over this tradition from Ito. In 1991, he started a yearly journey to Pearl Harbor to visit the USS Arizona Memorial and expanded upon Ito's tradition by pouring whiskey from the canteen into the waters surrounding the memorial. Together, the tradition set forth by Ito and Sugano helped parallel the long peaceful relationship between the U.S. and Japan that continues to this day. 2016, for the 75th anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attacks, the 6th annual Blackened Canteen ceremony at the USS Arizona Memorial saw the tradition's most impressive turnout yet. War is tragic, and it brings out the worst of us, said Jacqueline Ashwell, Superintendent of the National Park Service World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument. Yet out of war, glimmers of hope can be found amidst the destruction and despair, and great acts of courage can be known. Sugano, wearing a traditional Hawaiian lei, spoke with a hushed reverence, humbled by the turnout, and expressed his appreciation to the attendees. The ceremony was literally an outpouring of respect that proves that goodwill truly has no boundaries. Once the whiskey had been ceremonially dispersed, the attendees lined up to toss traditional plumera blossoms into the well. Within a moment, the waters were blanketed in a flora and final offering to the spirits of the fallen. From below waters, the crew members of the U.S. Arizona were honored with the sight of hundreds of blossoms fluttering down into the water, as U.S. and Japanese survivors of war stood together, united today by peace, friendship, and forgiveness. That is an amazing Pearl Harbor story. And I was glad I heard of the Blackened Canteen ceremony yesterday, but I wasn't able to come up with the origin of the canteen until I found it on, of course, a DoD website. You know me, I get a lot of stuff from there. All right. Moving on. We do have news. I promise. We have news. We have news today. And as much as I love Pearl Harbor and I love to talk about everything there, I need to talk about some more current news, we'll say, because before it is history, it is news. North Korea hacks South Korean cyber command. North Korea may have hacked the command set up by South Korean military to protect the U.S. ally from cyber attack. This incident comes after North Korea was blamed for attacks in the U.S., including Sony and the U.S. government systems and technology files. A Ministry of National Defense official said that hackers got into command computers and stole some military documents, including confidential information. South Korean lawmaker Kim Jong-pai revealed that the North had inserted malware into the command's intranet systems, and the South Korean military does not know how much data was stolen. This break in security seems to be much worse than was initially feared or reported. Price of coking coal may surge surging price of coking coal may extend if China cracks down on North Korea. Oh, yes. Remember the UN said that they were going to limit how much North Korea could export? Well, guess what? Guess what? If they do, the price they may get for it is subject to surge. Earlier sanctions banning coal purchasers from North Korea were not enforced by China due to an exemption allowing for imports for what was translated as people's well-being or livelihood purposes. China's foreign ministry said on December 1st that while it will enforce the new measure, they aren't intended to harm quote-unquote normal trade with North Korea or impact upon civilians. Resolution 2321 formulates the new measures showing the resolve of the Security Council and also points out they must avoid creating adverse consequences for North Korean civilian and humanitarian needs and are not intended to create negative effects on normal trade. Once again, it will appear to come down to what Beijing considers adverse effects on the North Korean populace. It seems that the Chinese authorities are leaving themselves wiggle room when it comes to enforcing the sanctions. Certainly, Chinese coal traders will be happy to be allowed to continue buying from North Korea once the new measures are put into place in January. China is believed to be the only country that buys North Korean coal, which is believed to be the biggest export earner for the dynastic communist dictatorship. Chinese customs data classifies North Korean coal as anthracite, which is a grade of coal high in energy content, making it ideal for use in steel blast furnaces and ceramic factories in the northeast provinces close to North Korea. Russia is the second largest supplier of anthracite to China, but its 1.867 million tons in the first 10 months is barely 10% of what was imported from North Korea. Rather, the main import competitor to North Korea anthracite is coking coal from Australia and Mongolia. Chinese imports of Australian coking coal were up 11.3% in the first 10 months. Stronger steel production and a policy directive from Beijing to limit domestic coal output has combined to send coking coal prices sharply higher, as China has sucked up every available ton from the seaborne market. So, will Beijing force domestic coal miners to ramp up output? And is it possible that inputs from North Korea won't be cut as much as implied by UN sanctions? This host says, you bet. Now, I do have an audio clip that relates to North Korea, but it doesn't relate to coal. This was a question asked at a press conference today in Japan, Secretary of Defense Ash Carter. So we're going to go ahead and play that clip. I will warn you, the audio is just a little hard to hear. At least the question is. The question is basically on North Korean deterrence.
Thank you, Secretary Carter and Minister Inada. I want to ask the Secretary Carter and Minister Inada about nuclear deterrence to North Korea. Secretary Carter, do you support the adopt no first use policy to deter North Korea?
Well, first, with respect to extended deterrence, as I said just a moment ago, our commitment to extend deterrence via the nuclear umbrella to our ally in alliance circumstances is unchanged, and we are continuing to build the capabilities to go along with that continuing extended deterrent, and that is important in a number of respects, but one in particular in the respect that you cited, namely to deter aggression from North Korea, which is an interest we strongly share, and therefore an interest of the alliance. And so the nuclear umbrella will continue. And I don't know whether you wanted me to say something about that, or is that? I'm happy to say something about that. That is an alliance a decision of the as any such decision would be. And as we talk about future capabilities, we'll talk about all kinds of capabilities. But again, these are kind of decisions that we, like everything else we do as an alliance.
All right. So given that he was speaking from Japan, I'm going to bring up a little bit more about the Pearl Harbor 75th anniversary. You think I'm not going to pepper that in all over my show tonight? You thought wrong. The ceremony set to honor those who lost their lives during the attacks on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941 include a moment of silence, a pass-in review of the guided missile destroyer USS Hazley, a missing man flyover formation, and wreath presentations for each branch of the armed forces. Now, for those of you who don't know what a pass-in review is, it's where they man the rails and they salute when they pass the Arizona, rendering appropriate honors. And I've got an audio clip that kind of has me upset. This was Josh Earnest. Yes, this one is straight from the White House about, oh yeah, you're not going to believe this one, about how the greatest generation World War II veterans need to put their feelings aside and get over it. Now, he doesn't say get over it in so many words, but I'm going to play the clip and let you decide.
Well, let me say it this way. This greatest generation of Americans, I think we take a risk if we underestimate their patriotism and their capacity to set aside their own personal interests and prioritize the ambition and opportunity of the American people. And so, yes, there may be some who may feel personally embittered. But I'm confident that many will set aside their own personal bitterness. Not because they're personally satisfied by the words of the Prime Minister, but because they recognize how important this moment is for the United States. And that's certainly why they qualify to be described as the greatest generation.
Thank you, Josh.
Jared.
All right, if that wasn't telling the greatest generation to get over it, I don't know what is. These men and women of the greatest generation have set aside their differences more times than I care to mention, more times than any other human being known in existence. And I'm sorry, why should they have to do so again? As far as I'm concerned, they most certainly should not. And we are the ones that need to honor and respect them for their sacrifice. And if they have hard feelings about what's going on, then guess what? They are 150% entitled to those feelings because they are the ones that were most directly affected. Now, it is almost the bottom of the hour. I've got about 2 minutes before I'm taking my commercial break. But I've got a couple of little other things I want to mention. And I am going to close out my show tonight with taps because there was another DoD casualty. that was announced today. But when we come back, I've got something about the man in the hat from the Brussels airport bombing. I've got something about Mosul. No, I didn't forget your Mosul update, I promise. I've also got something about Iran and Mosul. And I've got something about Putin and Japan. Oh yeah, these pieces are really interesting. Let's see if we can get them all to wiggle in to the right places. All right, folks. I'm looking at the clock. And it seems like it is about that time. So I'm thinking it's about that time. Hate to say it. Yeah, you know what that means. I gotta pay those bills. Really do. I'd love to just see sitting here talking to you. But I gotta pay those bills. I don't have much of a choice. So I am going to take a commercial break. And I will see you guys and gals on the other side.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, Visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
All right. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me over that commercial break. Now, I still have my Mosul updates. I still have a couple other things. But we have a new show premiering tonight at the top of the hour. It's called Constitution and Culture. So, all right. So that's going to be with Susan Swift and Dan Wright, and they're going to be right hot on my heels. Oh, yeah. So, all right. Enough with the text messaging back and forth to other show hosts. I'm still working on a holiday specials, guys. But I can tell you, Conversations in Science already has theirs in the books. Now, we're going to start off with, you know, I do my Mosul Raqqa stuff kind of all rolled up in one big ball of wax. Daesh released a new hastily produced video today using one of its last known Western hostages, British journalist John Cantilli, who hasn't been seen since a video 5 months ago. And he was making coerced statements from the rubble of besieged Mosul, Iraq, at the site of an apparent coalition airstrike. The appearance of one of the last Western hostages known to be held by Daesh, who was taken captive 4 years ago with fellow American journalist James Foley, who is unfortunately no longer with us, brought reassurance that he's alive. Until the video today, it had been unknown, both the UK and American governments, whether the captive remained alive or not. Despite appearing in a dozen Daesh videos since 2014, including in embattled Syrian cities in Aleppo and Kobani, as well as Mosul, authorities consider him a hostage forced to play a video correspondent for the terror group, appearing as if he is a soldier of the self-declared caliphate, rather than a man clearly held against his will. Catline's physical appearance has declined considerably since he first showed up on video 2 years ago. And yes, 2 years ago, he was wearing the classic orange jumpsuit at a wooden desk, reading a Daesh-written anti-Western piece of propaganda. In the video released today, he appeared gaunt and haggard, with cropped hair and beard, dressed in a fashionable black coat, standing beside what remains of a bridge that was reportedly bombed. I'm grateful he's alive, but it is bombed out rubble he's standing next to. Now, I've got a DoD update on the counter-Daesh fight. In the hard-fought battle to wrest Mosul from Daesh control, pressure is being applied mainly in the city's east to the Tigris River and the northwest. East of the Tigris River, and the Popular Mobilization Forces have moved up west of Tal Afar, 39 miles northwest of Mosul in Iraq's Nineveh Governorate, and they have cut off Daesh's use of Highway 47. Popular Mobilization Forces, depending on who you talk to, are either Iran-sponsored Shiite Muslims or Iraqi government-sponsored Shiite Muslims. But they also include Sunni Muslims, Christians, and Yazidis. I've heard them being referred to by all kinds of things. Now, Iran does have its finger in this pie, so I'm looking, just as Davis, I'm looking for the spokesperson. Anyway, within the last day, most progress has been made on the southeast axis. They advanced about a mile into the city, that was probably the best news overall. And they did that while facing heavy resistance that included 6 vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices. Over the past 24 hours, the coalition has conducted 3 airstrikes, delivering 110 munitions, bombs, and artillery in support of the Mosul operation, including hitting a Daesh tactical unit, a vehicle-borne IED facility, an excavator, 3 supply routes, and 2 tactical units. These strikes bring the total number of munitions delivered in support of Mosul operation to 5,866 since October 17th. Now, let's see, where's the other story I'm looking for? Come on. Are my notes ever in order, folks? The day they're in order is the day you all turn off your radios, because you won't get to hear me fumbling through stories. Come on. You know you guys tune in just to hear how badly I mispronounce these names. In the early days of the assault on Daesh and Mosul, Iran successfully pressed Iraq to change its battle plan and seal off the city in an intervention which has since shaped the tortuous course of the conflict. The original campaign strategy called for Iraqi forces to close down Mosul in a horseshoe formation, blocking 3 fronts but leaving the 4th open to the west of the city, leading to Daesh territory in neighboring Syria. The model was used to recapture several Iraqi cities from ultra-hardline militants in the last 2 years, and would have left fighters and civilians a clear route of escape, and could have made the Mosul battle quicker and simpler. But Tehran, anxious that retreating fighters would sweep back into Syria just as Iran's ally President Bashar al-Assad was gaining the upper hand, pressured Iraq to seal off the city and, quote, crush and eliminate Daesh in Mosul. The sources say Iran lobbied for Iranian-backed Popular Mobilization fighters, remember, we just read those and they were supposedly Iraqi-backed, to be sent to the Western Front to seal off the link between Mosul and Raqqa. These are the 2 main cities of Daesh's self-declared cross-border caliphate. That link is now broken. For the first time in Iraq's 2.5-year Western-backed drive to defeat Daesh, several thousand militants have little choice but to fight to the death, and 1 million remaining Mosul citizens have no escape from the front lines, creeping ever closer to the city center. If you corner your enemy and don't leave an escape, he will fight to the end, said a Kurdish official involved in planning the Mosul battle. In the West, the initial idea was to have a corridor. But popular mobilization insisted on closing this loophole to prevent them going to Syria. Excuse me just a moment. Mr. Frog is trying to make a very much unscheduled appearance. Alright, grab that gulp of water. Planning documents drawn up by humanitarian organizations before the campaign show they prepared camps in Kurdish-controlled areas of Syria for around 90,000 refugees, expected to be headed west out of Mosul. Iran didn't agree and insisted that no safe corridor be allowed to Syria. They wanted the whole region of West Mosul to be, quote-unquote, a kill box. Hasham al-Hashami, an Iraq analyst on Islamic militants who was briefed on the battle plan advance, said it initially envisaged leaving one flank open. The first plan had the shape of a horseshoe, allowing for the population and the militants to retreat westward as the main thrust of offensive came from the east. About a week before the launch of the campaign, Lebanese Shiite Hezbollah leader, reminder for those of you needing an update on your scorecards, Hezbollah backed by Iran. Hassan Nasrallah, a close ally of Iran, accused the United States of planning to allow Islamic State, or Daesh as I usually call them, a way out to Syria. Hezbollah is fighting in support of Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Alright, remember your Syria, Raqqa, Mosul scorecards, folks? Alright, we're going to go over them real quick because we haven't gone over our scorecards in a little bit. We have Bashar al-Assad. The current president, Obama, has said must go. We have President-elect Donald Trump, who I'm not sure he's really made up his mind, but I'm going to leave that to the U.S. policy experts. Then we have Russia propping up Assad. Yeah, they've got whole military bases over there. Then we have Iran going up. We'll send our Hezbollah wing in to prop you guys up too. So this is turning into quite the disaster. Yes, it is turning into quite the disaster for the region. Then, remember, China also tends to side with Iran and Russia. So, all I can say is Iran convinced Iraq to close the horseshoe, make it a circle, instead of a horseshoe. Now, leaving a way out could have allowed things to run a little smoother and could have hastened the recapture of Mosul. We will never know the true answer to that. We will never know. Because you can game it all year. Alright. I am almost done. I am actually going to end my show just a little bit, well, what I'm doing tonight on my show, just a little bit early. Because I got a surprise for the Constitution and Culture crew. Yeah, I have a surprise for the duo that is doing Constitution and Culture right after me. I'm going to bring them on the last 5 minutes of my show and let them introduce themselves. Not that you won't get to hear all about them at their show. But I'm going to bring them on just for a minute when we get to the very end. So we've talked about the Blackened Canteen. We've talked about Pearl Harbor. The Man in the Hat. Yes, remember that famous picture of the Man in the Hat at the Brussels airport bombing? After the Brussels airport bombing that killed 16 people last March, a man in a black hat was seen walking calmly from the scene. Closed-circuit cameras caught the same man prior to the blast in a hat and glasses and tan coat, pushing a loaded luggage cart alongside the two suicide bombers who would soon detonate their devices. A manhunt began. It turns out the man in the hat was a prolific burglar, a Manchester United fan with a gambling habit and a neighborhood friend of several of the plotters in the Paris and Brussels terror attacks who traveled to Syria and Britain as a courier for Daesh. Oh yeah. He traveled to Syria and Britain as a courier for Daesh. Mohamed Abrini, a Belgian of Moroccan descent, was picked up in Belgium on April 8th. His confession allowed authorities to identify and charge two men from Birmingham, England, as accomplices in the attacks, but Abrini didn't like the way his statements were leaked to the media, and he was branded a supergrass or a snitch. He refused to testify against the men who were charged with supplying money for the attacks. Prosecutors used his confession as evidence instead, reading the transcript aloud in court. A jury found Belgian national Zakar Bafusol, 26, guilty. Muhammad Ali Ahmed pled guilty last month. Abrini was friends with at least 3 of the Paris and Brussels attackers. Abrini would soon... So, like I said, his neighbors, of course, as always, were surprised. And I have a feeling he was willing to do anything for a buck. Now, I do have one DoD casualty, but I have a feeling I can get the Constitution and Culture people to play ball on that one. All right, let me see if I can bring them on the line. Just give me 1 second. Let me see if I can get them on. You ready to surprise them? Let's see if we can surprise them. All right. Hey, guys. Susan?
Hey.
Dan? I brought you into my show for a minute just as a complete and total surprise, just because I could.
Hi, how are you, Jessie?
So how are you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we're
Doing
having
well.
a blast. We are all warmed up and ready to go on Constitution and Culture.
All right. Awesome. I can't wait to hear your new show. It's going to be a blast. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those very unique and interesting shows that only KLRNRadio can do.
Well, you're just so polite, Jessie. Unique and interesting. Ay. We got to do better than that. That's what liberals are, unique and interesting.
Well, it's the best I can do at the moment, considering I'm juggling about 40 pieces of paper all over my desk, and about 20 some odd tabs, and...
I got one too.
Oh yeah. Trust me, I don't have one. I have a herd of them. And that doesn't count the ones I've already dumped in the trash can. Now, so my listeners can hear about your show. Are you guys going to be on every night, Wednesday night at 10 o'clock?
I think we're doing it weekly for starters. We'll see. Maybe 2017 will make it different. But right now, I think we're set for once a week, Wednesday nights, Hump Night.
Cool.
Yeah, and I mean, we will we'll be on, yes, every Wednesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, and there will be 1 week out of every month that
I heard Susan's going to have a special guest, rotating guest.
Yes, I do have an obligation 1 week a month, but we will make sure that we have somebody fun and competent on in my place.
All right.
Well, it'll also give me an opportunity one day a month to just crash and burn. We'll see how that goes.
I doubt it. Now, I know you two probably don't listen to my show too often, but I'm not doing my normal outro tonight because the Department of Defense identified a casualty today. And every time when I have my next show after they do that, and I was going to do it anyway tonight because Pearl Harbor, I read the announcement and play taps. So
that's beautiful.
It's my way of honoring the military. They have a very special place in my heart, as you can well imagine.
God bless you, Jessie.
So, Department of Defense announced today the death of a soldier who was supporting Operation Freedom Sentinel. Sergeant First Class Alan E. Brown, 46, of Tacoma Park, Maryland, died December 6 at Walter Reed National Medical Center, Bethesda, Maryland, of injuries sustained from an improvised explosive device in Bagram, Afghanistan, that occurred on November 12th. He was assigned to Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 1st Special Troops Battalion, 1st Sustainment Brigade, 1st Cavalry Division, Fort Hood, Texas. Also killed in this incident were Sergeant W. Perry, 30, of Stockton, California, who died November 12th, and PFC Tyler R. Lubelt, 20, of Tamora, Illinois, who died November 12th. And folks, I can never top taps. So after this, and I'm also playing it tonight in honor of all those who perished 75 years ago today at Pearl Harbor.